please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, the BJP is all-powerful, but the opposition is certainly not a walkover. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this special broadcast. I'm Shereen Bhan. The voters of Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh have spoken, and here are the top headlines that we need to contend with. It's a 7th straight electoral victory. Even after staying in power for over 2 decades, the BJP has retained the crucial bastion of Gujarat. The total seats have taken a hit, but the party has increased its vote share by 2% from the last 2012 elections. However, from the 2014 Lok Sabha elections, the BJP's vote share is down by almost 13%. The second headline that we need to take note of, it is not all gloom and doom for the Congress party in the state of Gujarat. The party has added nearly 20 more seats from the last elections, and it's even managed to increase its vote share by almost 3%. The third headline, there is a stark difference in how rural and urban Gujarat has voted. The BJP continues to be the darling with urban voters, but in rural areas, the Congress has made some serious inroads. So a clear warning for the BJP that the rural distress must be addressed. The fourth headline, the old guard in both the BJP as well as the Congress has been put on notice. Many big faces have bit the dust, with young leaders like Alpesh Thakur and Jignesh Mavani coming to the fore, winning their seats comfortably. The fifth headline, the Modi juggernaut rolls on, and the Prime Minister remains the biggest calling card for the Bharatiya Janata Party. In Surat, dominated by traders, where the GST rollout was supposed to wreak havoc, the BJP has won almost all seats, wiping out the Congress. And finally, Rahul Gandhi has found his voice, but can he emerge as a serious contender for 2019 with a combined opposition rallying around him? That is the big question. Before we begin discussing this big election result, here are the sights and sounds from verdict day across Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh.
ये कांग्रेस के नेतृत्व ने जो आउटसोर्सिंग से चुनाव लड़ने का एक प्रयास किया था, इसका नतीजा है।
जिस ईवीएम के अंदर रिकाउंटिंग हुई है, उसी के अंदर कई बार चेंज हुए हैं।
मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जो जीता वही सिकंदर।
अभी तो कुछ नहीं बोलूंगा क्योंकि अभी हाल में ही वो अध्यक्ष बने हैं, लेकिन सिर मुड़ाते ही ओले पड़े।
गृह राज्य में उनकी मजबूती कम हुए, ये साबित करती है कि देश में क्या हालात है।
People of Gujarat trust BJP, the development they have given, and above all the leadership of Narendra Modi ji.
विकास की राजनीति जो है वो जातिवाद की राजनीति पर विजय हुई है.
Tide turned against us, the tide will turn again for us, and I think the trend certainly suggests a much more positive direction.
I was a chief minister. I was leading the party here, so it is my responsibility also.
Under the leadership of the Gandhis, the Congress has been shriveling up in one state after the other, and it's going to be a Congress Mukt Bharat very soon.
Well, that is what politicians across political lines make of the election result. Joining us now to discuss the implications of this verdict, BJP spokesperson Syed Zafar Islam, Congress spokesperson Sanjay Jha, Yogendra Yadav of Swaraj India, political economist Shankar Iyer, Shailesh Kumar of the Eurasia Group, joining us from Washington, D.C., Ruzan Khambata, social activist and entrepreneur. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV18. Zafar Islam, let me start by asking you, well, a victory is a victory, and as all BJP leaders have been saying, Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar, so we're not taking anything away from the victory for both the state of Gujarat as well as Himachal Pradesh. But let's talk about the crucial state of Gujarat, Zafar Islam. Your own estimates were 150. I mean, till day before yesterday on my show, when I repeatedly asked you that question after the exit polls, do you still stick with 150? And you were very confident. You said, yes, we stick with 150. Even internal estimates within the BJP suggested that it would not be anything less than 135. What's gone wrong?
Well, Shiri, let me tell you very honestly. The elections are over. BJP has won this election. And as you rightly said, Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar. But having said that, let me tell you, this election was a very tough election. It's not because of anti-incumbency, but primarily because of the negative campaign by Congress party and the divisive policy which the Congress party has followed, and they were pursuing along with other
Zafar Islam, may I remind you, sir, may I remind you, till 48 hours ago, you said there was no contest. You said you were sweeping Gujarat, Zafar, on my show several times over. Those were the comments that BJP spokespeople
I did. I mean, I'm not
no contest in the state of Gujarat. Now you're saying it was a tough fight.
I'm not denying that, but that was the election strategy. You must appreciate that when you are in the battle, you do not open all your cards. And today I must admit that the battle was it was a tough battle. And what was more important for us to target something which is difficult for everyone to imagine, but we had delivered in the past. In Uttar Pradesh, nobody had imagined we will deliver 300 plus seats. And in Gujarat, we were aiming at 150 seats. But of course, we knew very well that the ground reality is different, that people are pursuing negative campaign, people are pursuing divisive policy, people are trying to appease a section of the society, and that is something which is detrimental for any election campaign. And we wanted to stick to election positive campaign, and that is what actually has helped us.
This is all part. The Congress will accuse you of playing a negative campaign, of also appeasing a certain section. Let's not go down that road. I think, to be fair, there are important lessons to be learned for all parties involved in this election, and for those of us who are also covering this election, on what this will actually mean for the national politics, as well as for the crucial state elections that are coming up in 2018. But let me bring our other guests into this conversation, and before I get Sanjay Jha in, we live in an era of alternative facts, as we just heard there from the BJP spokesperson. Till 48 hours ago, there was no contest, and suddenly it has emerged as a tough fight. But what do you think changed?
I don't think much changed. I think they knew what they were faced with. The argument that the Congress ran a negative campaign mystifies me, because, I mean, what did they expect the Congress to do? Say that the BJP ran a good government, but please vote for us. So the Congress picked up a strategy. I mean, it's like cricket. I mean, you know, if the opponent team is good at pace, you will not pick up pace bowlers, you will pick up spin bowlers. So the Congress picked up on all the pain points, and there are 3 pain points in Gujarat which are common to the...
poking a hole in the Gujarat development model.
Not so much as the Gujarat model, as much as the fact that it would resonate across the country. So the first thing that they picked up was agrarian distress, which was highlighted by the Patidar agitation. The fact of youngsters going with Hardik and Alpesh and Jignesh showed that the youth was disenchanted because of job creation. And the third was there is a genuine distress in small and medium enterprises.
Which hasn't shown up, at least not if you look at what's happened in urban Gujarat.
So if you see in the peri-urban vote, it will show up. If you see Surendranagar, Amreli, it will show up. So the point is that in Surat, they put everything into the battle to retain the say. Okay, also these are transitory issues. And the fault that they didn't lose lies with the Congress, because the Congress only flagged the issues but has no solution to offer.
Sure, the Congress has no solution to offer, and which is probably why the Congress couldn't capitalize on the anger and the disenchantment that was very palpable on the ground. But Yogendra Yadav, you know, while there was a lot of talk about demonetization and GST, etc., as Shankar was pointing out, and that's what the numbers also suggest, that, you know, areas like Surat continue to remain BJP bastions. They might have been angry, but they have not voted against the BJP. But where it has hurt the BJP and where it has cost them seats is the urban-rural divide, and we discussed this a week ago on my show. If you look at what's happened as far as urban Gujarat is concerned, 55 seats, the BJP getting 43, the Congress 12. Rural Gujarat, 127 seats, the BJP getting 56 and the Congress 71. So the fact of the matter is that the focus of the Congress on highlighting rural distress, agrarian distress, has paid off for them and has worked against the BJP. Yogendra Yadav.
Shereen, frankly, I didn't expect GST to become a major electoral loss, swing issue in Gujarat. You know, this is at the most generous estimate, even in a society like Gujarat, which is very commercial, trade-oriented. What would be the proportion of those who are, those who even know what GST is? Hardly 10%.
Sure.
Those who have to have any direct dealing with it. The real issue was going to be demonetization, partly because it affects everyone, and above all, agrarian crisis. And to be absolutely honest, I'm actually surprised that Congress did not make enough of it. Do remember that even in 2012, Congress was almost at par with the BJP in these rural areas. So they have surged ahead slightly. But given the opportunity, given the level of agrarian distress, given the fact that both cotton and groundnut prices has crashed this year, given that people were angry, it is true. I agree with the other panelist, Shankar, who said that Congress focused on the right things. Yes, Congress focused on economy, which it should have. They did not allow themselves to be distracted. They focused on agrarian issues. Were they loud enough? Were they credible enough? That's a question we should ask, because what happened in Saurashtra, if half of that was repeated in north and central Gujarat, we would have been discussing something altogether different. Yes, BJP enjoys a 6% gap, a margin, but it would have taken just 2% swing to change the entire picture. So my own sense is, while the Congress would say moral victory and everything else, once they have an honest closed-door discussion, and I sincerely hope they do, they would say, boss, an opportunity missed.
Boss, an opportunity missed. Sanjay Jha, let me come to you with that. That I think is the overwhelming feeling here within the studio as well. Most panelists believe that yes, the Congress focused on the right issues, but did you do enough? Did you run an effective enough campaign to capitalize on converting the anger into votes for the Congress party? Sanjay Jha, you were not loud enough, you were not credible enough, perhaps you didn't have the organizational cadre on the ground backing you. Look at the sorry state of affairs as far as your own senior leaders in the state are concerned. And perhaps the biggest positive has been the fact that you've been able to get on board Hardik Patel, Alpesh Thakur and Jignesh Mevani, who've done a good job for you.
Shereen, since we are likely to be losing this election, I will take all the feedback or the criticism in the right spirit. I think on the positive side, we fought truly a disciplined campaign. We never wanted this entire Gujarat election to, go back to the perverse, parochial kind of a political campaign, which essentially goes back to religious polarization and communal stress. And I'm glad we never veered away from it, although I think our principal opponent did that. But, the key point I feel, Shereen, when I look at the positives out of the campaign, is that I think it's opened up the doors for the 2019 election. There's only two statistics I'll share with you. I mean, if you look at the 2014 Lok Sabha election, which is the last critical benchmark to compare it with, our vote shares were negligible by comparison to BJP, almost a 20-point difference. And secondly, I think in terms of the assembly seats, we led in barely 17. And it was 26-0 in terms of Lok Sabha. Now 26-0 in Lok Sabha, and now you're down to around 99-80 or 96-83. It tells you that there is a significant change happening at the ground level in Gujarat. Now, I concede to the point that we have definitely got a lot of homework to do where urban Gujarat is concerned, which is why I think to a great extent what Yogendra Yadav ji says, and I have a lot of respect for Yogendra, that the point that he makes is that we actually did not capitalize on the angst in urban Gujarat. Now, we knew that the rural Gujarat was clearly disenchanted, disillusioned with a Gujarat model that has been lopsided. We tried very hard, actually we did very hard, but end of day, the Gujarat, therefore the Gabbar Singh tax, demonetization, the state of the economy and jobs, we brought them up. It hasn't worked. But then, you live to fight another day, and I think we will.
Okay, I like the fact that we've got party spokespeople now willing to be honest on the day of the electoral results. Zafar Islam, a quick word from you before I go across to Rizan.
No, all I am saying that this is an emphatic victory for Bharatiya Janata Party for two reasons. Because after 22 years of serving people, incumbency definitely sets in. But there was no incumbency as such, as I said earlier, and that's why people have reposed faith in Bharatiya Janata Party, and they have discarded the negative politics which they have pursued. Secondly, what I would like to tell you that
say one thing?
Even the issues. Even the issues they were raising in terms of development, actually the development what has taken place in Gujarat is something people have bought this argument because they have experienced the good thing whatever has happened in Gujarat. But whatever the Congress was trying to expose to us is something which they actually...
You're making your pre-poll argument again. Zafar Islam, you're making your pre-poll argument
today,
again.
No, I'm not making... All I'm trying to respond to Sanjay Jha. All I'm trying to respond to Sanjay Jha, but today we have won the election.
I just wanted...
It is behind us. And he was... No.
I just wanted to make a one-liner, which is simply this, that while the... while the BJP would say all this for external consumption, I hope when they have internal review, and I hope they would be honest when they do it, they would say, boss, this was scary. We almost lost it. And we need to do something on the rural front. We were lucky we had a Narendra Modi in Gujarat to do it. He may not have that kind of magic in Karnataka, in Madhya Pradesh and so on. That's a lesson for BJP, I think, I hope.
Okay, and that's the point that I want to take to you, Ruzan. And, you know, I think I've been reading Prashant Jha from the Hindustan Times through the course of this campaign, and he summed it up really nicely. Is this a trust vote or a mercy vote for the BJP on account of Narendra Modi? I mean, it's absolutely clear that it is the Prime Minister that has won the BJP this election in Gujarat. Trust vote, mercy vote?
See, let me first explain to you the whole thing, that how did they came to the target of 150. The logic which went behind it, that when last time Mr. Modi fought in 2012, there were 115 seats which they won when Modi was there. So this time they believed that with Mr. Modi at the center and BJP at the state level, obviously they added these plus seats in the name of Mr. Modi. But they did not realize that the local Gujarat cadre had become very weak, and in fact the whatever development model they are talking of, but in the last 2 to 3 years, actually practically everything was at a standstill. Now when these elections came up, obviously 5 months back, there was a lot of issues with the BJP government in terms of the local government I'm talking of, and that is why people were slowly shifting towards Congress. And yes, Congress did get that strategy right initially with Vikas Gandoche and no development and talking about farmers and Patidar issues, Dalit issues, OBC issues. But then it happens as that yes, Gujarat, if it was just for the Gujarat BJP, they would have 100% lost. But because when Mr. Modi came into the picture, now hold a second. One more important thing, that people looking, every spokesperson of BJP is harping on the fact that this is the 6th win, that's the biggest win, blah blah things like that, and they could counter the anti-incumbency. But I would rather like to say that for people of Gujarat, the very first thing was that for them it might be the 6th term. For us it was the 1st term. The reason being that after Mr. Modi went as a PM, we are looking from 2014 onwards. So the Gujarati people thought it is their duty to see to it that in Gujarat also there is a BJP government, because the BJP at both the places, like Mr. Modi himself said, dono haath mein laddu, aapka center mein bhi laddu, Gujarat mein bhi laddu. So he wanted people to understand that, and that is the only reason BJP could garner this 99 to 100 or 102 seats. Otherwise, I mean, that would otherwise
the
BJP would have been at a great loss.
The Modi factor has clearly played the most crucial part as far as this election is concerned. But Shailesh Kumar, let me come to you now and ask you, the stock markets early in the morning, when there was the possibility on account of the numbers that were coming in that this was going to go the direction of the Congress. I mean, we saw the markets tank, and then we saw a sharp recovery because the BJP has managed to retain the state of Gujarat. So the markets vote for predictability and stability, and that is what they like, that is what they're hoping for. But what is the larger message for the economy? I mean, I think it's overstated to imagine that because of the fact that the BJP has lost the number of seats that it's lost in comparison to 2012, that it's suddenly going to mean that it's going to do a U-turn on a lot of the measures that it was planning to on the economic front. Do you believe that this fear of a reversal of economic policy is overstated?
Thanks for having me. The first point is that the markets are essentially looking at this in very binary terms, a win versus a loss. The fact is, when the markets were down in the morning, it looked like the BJP was about to lose. When the markets came back, the BJP won, but not with the same number of seats that they were going to expect to win, or not with the same number of seats as 2012, right? So with that said, it seems like the markets look at this in a very simplistic way. There's really nothing that's going to change. The BJP is not going to suddenly reverse all of its economic policies. As I've said to you last week, the likelihood of reforms is also unlikely. With the BJP coming in with a slimmer majority, the potential for reforms is even less than what it may have been a few weeks ago. The fact is, this election was about, to an extent, GST and demonetization. The UP election was about demonetization. In both cases, the BJP won. But in both cases, those two issues became unnecessary hurdles on the campaign trail. The last thing the BJP is going to want to do is introduce another disruptive reform ahead of Karnataka or ahead of the 2019 election. So the chances of these big reforms is not there. So for the market to bounce because the BJP won and maybe you'll get some reforms is highly unlikely. That's not the reason. I think they're looking at it in very simplistic terms. A win by the BJP is good, period. But that doesn't mean the economic landscape is going to change versus a loss would have been a worse economy, for example.
I agree with you, Shailesh, and let me just ask you to take that point forward, because the next big milestone on the economic calendar is the union budget. We've seen a flurry of wish lists being presented to the finance minister, and it seems pretty clear now that the focus will continue to be on infrastructure as well as the rural sector. Now, I don't know what this electoral result is perhaps going to mean as far as a significant reduction in corporate tax rate, for instance, is concerned, even though a presentation has been made to the finance minister saying, look what's happened in the US, etc. Do you believe that we should expect any significant drastic move on corporate tax rates, or do you believe that this is going to focus on rural infrastructure?
Yeah, I think corporate taxes is challenging. There's already been comments about the gradual decline in corporate taxes. The problem is if you introduce a large corporate tax cut now, you're opening yourself up as a political party to accusations of crony capitalism all over again. And I don't think they want that. On the point about infrastructure, last year's budget had around $60 billion in dollar terms of infrastructure spending. That number will probably increase. Yeah. More of that will probably go towards the rural economy. I think the one big takeaway, if you're a BJP strategist right now and you're looking at the outcome, you're probably saying the rural voter was against you. So for those reasons, as they begin to plan the budget, you're probably going to see a lot more focus on the rural economy going forward. And that could also mean infrastructure spending. It could also mean a reduction in the slowdown of subsidies. And it could also mean going forward that MSP prices may be held constant, may increase a little bit more than they were increased in the past. So yes, I think the budget planning preparation will take Gujarat into account. It's that the timing works out very well for them. But at the same time, let's not forget, though, that the macro stability story is exceptionally critical. The last thing that the BJP wants right now is inflation. If inflation goes out of control ahead of 2019, it's going to be over for the party. So for those reasons, you're probably not going to see you're going to see some populist spending, but not too much, and not too much in the way of widening the fiscal deficit either.
Yeah, okay, let me just very quickly get Yogendra to comment on that. And Yogendra, as we just heard there from Shailesh, that perhaps this is now going to be an opportunity for the government to look at addressing the agrarian crisis, the rural distress, in a much more focused way in the budget. I mean, the government has promised doubling of farmers' income by 2022. I know that people like you believe that that is a mirage. They have not implemented several of the recommendations made by the Swaminathan Committee, etc. What is the realistic expectation now, given where we've actually seen MSP, given the fact that we've actually seen farmers selling below cost of production even? What do you expect the government to do now in light of the electoral verdict with the budget and the farm sector?
I'd simply underline what Shailesh has rightly pointed out. If you are a finance minister, you are in the 4th year, this is your last big budget. Do you want to spend it to give big concessions to corporate houses? Highly unlikely. I mean, you have to be really politically naive to do that. What would be your priority? Your priority would be giving some relief to a rural sector given the agrarian crisis. The relief could come in the form of some support from some legislative backing for minimum support price. better infrastructure for actually providing that MSP of various kinds. Second, your priority would be employment. That's a real big issue, and that's an urban issue as well as a rural issue. And the third, of course, the priority would be to control inflation. Now, these three things don't quite match up with each other. So one expects a lot of pressure on the fiscal deficit front. That will be the most natural outcome. I don't know how, I mean, I hear all kinds of fantasies being floated about the budget, but you really have to be not a political player to, or not a political analyst to even entertain these fantasies. Fourth year of a government is not the place where you do those things.
Well, a lot of fantasies around the budget, you're absolutely right. But Zafar Islam, let me come to you now. And let's just look at the promises that you've made to farmers. You've spoken about doubling the farmer income by 2022. I'm looking at data that's been put together by Ramandeep Singh Mann. He said it took 22 years for the nominal income of farmers to increase by 9 times. What you're promising is not possible at all. Agri growth in the first 3 years of the NDA government is down to 1.8%. MSP, which grew between 19.3% between 2009 and 2013, has seen a growth of only 3.6% between 2014 and 2017. So, you know, beyond all the glib talk, the reality is very different when the BJP talks about farmers.
See, not only in our manifesto, in terms of our philosophy, we are very focused to empower poor, to ensure that these farmers are adequately taken care of, their concerns are getting addressed, so that process.
But they're not clearly, Zafar Islam, they're clearly not getting addressed. If there is one message that's coming through from this electoral result, it is that it's not being addressed.
No, I disagree with you. A lot of things which have been done for farmers which has never been done in the past, like availability of a urea at a concessional price, availability, and then the insurance scheme, a lot of crop insurance scheme, a lot of things have been done for besides increasing the MSP, and that is a continuous process which we will continue to do that. And our target is by 2020 their income should improve at least should improve to doubles. That is something which we are working on. But having said that, let me tell you one more thing which is very important that somebody was talking about the disruptive decision which has been taken. It's not disruptive. These are all important landmark structural reforms which was needed, and it had to be done. And that is why even the IMF has endorsed that the GST as well as the demonetization was the landmark structural reforms which the country needed, because there was a parallel economy, there was the black money, and those needed to be addressed, and that is why it has been addressed. And if you see the moving average IIP number for October month end, I'm saying the quarterly moving average, it comes at 4%, and the inflation at 4%, it is actually the nominal growth rate is around 8%, which is very good. And going forward, you will see that all the concern of job creation.
I don't know where you're getting your numbers from, Zafar Islam. I don't. No.
Shireen, I'm telling you, don't take the monthly, and don't take the.
But let's
don't take the monthly number. That's why I said take the quarterly IIP number, moving average number, then you will get the number.
Okay, all right. Shankar Iyer, let me ask you now, what does this mean from an economic standpoint? What will it mean to start with from a budget perspective? How do you see this impacting or changing the reform agenda, in any way, if at all? Go ahead.
I have somebody else talking in my ear. Sorry. Here's the thing. For the BJP, it's a wake-up call. What they have sort of seen in Gujarat in the agrarian crisis. This wake-up call also rang just before the UP polls and the loan waivers went. Now the problem of agriculture is not throw money problem will go away problem. It needs structural reforms, and that may or may not come through in the next budget or the next year. So the moves will have to be a combination of hope for the future and palliative on the ground. So I think the first instance they will bring in more rural spending in roads, in water bodies and stuff like that. So there will be the Keynesian aspect of income delivery in the rural sector.
Right.
And then there will be the reform story for the future. Now, the problem is that a lot of people in the government and BJP sort of mistake small steps like Krishan credit card or urea. Those are all paracetamol prescriptions that are required. Nobody denies that. But the real incremental change will come when you address the small land holding problem. The 1.5 hectare is not a viable holding. Can you do collective farming? Can you do contract farming? Can you deliver both access to markets and inputs? And this is something they have to find a champion for. Just like they have Nitin Gadkari championing the whole road sector. They need a champion for the agricultural sector.
They need a champion for the agriculture sector. But Ruzan, let me ask you, who's going to be the champion in the state of Gujarat? I mean, you know, Mr. Rupani looked very shaky in the morning. He's of course made it. But
no, luckily for Mr. Rupani, he has blessings of Mr. Amit Shah. Previously, I mean, as you all know, when Anandiben was there was a big tussle between Anandiben and Mr. Amit Shah. So a lot of things went haywire during her tenure. But now, Rupani, under the blessings of Mr. Amit Shah, it is a sure shot that he's going to be the CM. And the reason why, because unfortunately people do understand that, but they don't have a choice also, that when Mr. Rupani was there, you know, a lot of decisions were not taken from his side, but were coming from the Delhi center. So, but that's what Gujarat people have accepted. So, I'm sure for that Mr. Rupani would become the Chief Minister, and things would be as usual as it was before the elections.
Okay, so business as usual in Gujarat.
I hope no, now this time, no. I think there would, in terms
there'll be some change. You expect that to be some
change? Yes, I do, because now they already got the red light and they understand that now they cannot take their voters for granted. So it's important that now they better get their act together. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for them in 2019 and onwards.
I think that's an important lesson for political parties. Don't take the voter for granted, and for everybody who's tracking elections, don't write off political parties prematurely. People were writing obituaries of the Congress party till just a few weeks ago, but we've seen some recovery. Whether this is going to be sustainable or not, is it a flash in the pan? That's the big question that we address after this very short break. Welcome back. You're watching our special coverage here on Election Exchange, the electoral result of Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh, with the BJP retaining the crucial bastion of Gujarat and making a comeback in the state of Himachal Pradesh as well. Joining us now is the Minister of State for Civil Aviation, Senior BJP leader, Jayant Sinha. Mr. Sinha, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV18. Congratulations, sir, to the BJP on retaining Gujarat and winning back Himachal Pradesh. You know, one can argue about the number of seats and vote shares and so on and so forth. But I will ask you, Mr. Sinha, about what this means as far as the economic agenda of the government is concerned. I'm looking at a whole bunch of reports that have come out post the results, and I'll just pick up one, Nomura, and I think this pretty much mirrors what most people on the street are asking. Nomura says we expect shades of populism to emerge next year with a focus on policies with both economic and political benefits. What should we understand that to mean, sir? How is this electoral verdict likely to impact economics?
Well, the Honorable Finance Minister and the Honorable Prime Minister have said during the election campaign that we are going to press ahead with reforms. We are going to press ahead with the important initiatives that are necessary for India's sustainable growth and particularly for building up very vital rural infrastructure and improving India's social capital. So we've been very clear about what our policy directions are. And Shereen, I will point out that, you know, despite the challenges of demonetization and GST, we have got the confidence of the people of India. Despite people coming up with issues and concerns regarding GST, we were able to address that. And remember, in some ways, Surat was the epicenter of the protests against GST. Yes. We responded to that. We dealt with the issues. We dealt with the challenges. We were able to come up with very good solutions to their issues. And we have won very, very big in Surat. And so the ultimate takeaway here is that we have a government that is committed to doing what's right for India, and we have the support of the people in doing what's right, because ultimately they have confidence in the Honorable Prime Minister, in the government, and in our policies.
Mr. Sinha, you're right that that Surat, for instance, has stayed with the BJP. So even if there was any disenchantment on account of the GST, that hasn't translated into votes for the Congress party or seats for the Congress party. But if I could ask you, sir, one of the concerns is that the government does face fiscal constraints. And if one of the clear messages coming in from this electoral victory or verdict from the state of Gujarat is the fact that you need to address the agrarian distress and the farm distress. Now, you've got choices to make because there's only so much money that you have to deal with. Given that, would it then be a realistic expectation that the government will stick to the path of fiscal consolidation, that the government may respond to what we're seeing happen globally with a drastic cut in corporate taxes in countries like the US and respond by way of a tax cut here in India? I mean, what should we realistically expect in terms of the choices that the government is likely to exercise given the fiscal constraints?
I think as the Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Finance Minister have said over and over again, we have to accept that we are, as a government, determined to pursue the path of fiscal consolidation. That is something that we have pursued ever since we've come to office. That has paid off very richly for us because we are now really in that macroeconomic sweet spot where we can see sustainable growth going forward. So departing from that path of fiscal consolidation is not something that the Honorable Prime Minister or the Honorable Finance Minister, I think, are going to do. At the same time, with respect to what we need to do to spur the economy, to deal with distress in agriculture, which of course is something that we are concerned about, there are many other levers that we can pull and that we will be considering and we will be including as part of the policy mix. But at the same time, Shereen, one of the points that all of us have brought up over and over again is really around real interest rates. The world over, we are seeing real interest rates that are actually very low. There's 0%, minus 25 basis points, minus 50 basis points, and so on. At the same time, we in India are running fairly high real interest rates. So when we look at the entire policy mix,
if I may interrupt you, sir,
the fiscal side.
And I know that this has been a long-standing demand of the government that the RBI should cut interest rates, but is that now a realistic expectation? And I ask you that in the context of the fact that we've actually seen commodity prices moving up, crude oil prices have gone up quite substantially, vegetable inflation is high. In fact, the latest inflation print has been on the concerning front as far as the RBI is concerned, ahead of its expectations. So is it realistic to, in this context, expect the Reserve Bank to be cutting rates?
I think most of the factors that you mentioned, Shereen, are really not core inflation. Many of those are seasonal factors. Many of those are very volatile. So we shouldn't pay too much attention to some of those more volatile factors. I think we have to look at the fact that there is underlying slack in the economy, whether it is factory utilization, the workforce, whether it is in terms of what we are looking at as far as demand is concerned. In all of these cases, I think it's fair to say that structurally the economy could definitely benefit from lower real interest rates. And of course, there's also the dynamic argument that you can make that lower interest rates and higher investment will actually reduce inflation because there'll be more supply side, more capacity going into the system as well. So there are arguments to be made on both sides. All I'm saying is that when we look at the policy mix, we have to look at all the various levers. The fiscal side is one side. There are a number of different things that can be done as far as policy is concerned. And then the monetary side also should be part of that whole discussion as well.
So on the policy front, because you said that there are several levers that the government can exercise, may I ask you what those are likely to be? Because the next big milestone on the economic calendar is the budget. And one would now imagine that the budget will need to take into consideration some of the feedback that this electoral result has thrown up, whether it's farm distress or it's trying to rev up growth to provide a fillip to the economy, to create jobs. What is it that we can hope or we can expect the government to exercise by way of levers that you spoke of, Mr. Sinha?
Well, at least speaking for myself, I would say that what this election verdict is telling us, whether it's Himachal, where we won with a 2/3 majority, or Gujarat, where we won for the 6th consecutive time, even after we have a government in the center and a government in Gujarat. So we are dealing with serious, anti-incumbency, if you look at it from that perspective. Despite all of that, we have won resounding victories in Himachal and in Gujarat. So for me, at least, the big takeaway is stay the course. We have to make the right decisions for India, the decisions that really position India best for the long term, even if that entails some short-term challenges that we have to overcome, as we did with GST, as we did with demonetization. If you do what's necessary and what is required for India, I think the people of India will support you. For me, that's the big takeaway of this election. Even if that means that the people of India are going to have to go through some difficult and hard adjustments, they're prepared to do that if they have faith and confidence in you. And I think that's what this election is telling us. And that's why really stay the course. Our policies are very, very sound, robust policies. And this is not just my opinion. This is the opinion of very astute and very knowledgeable observers and rating agencies around the world. So I think we have to stay the course. There's a lot more to be done in terms of freeing up the economy. Of course, as you know, the Air India strategic disinvestment is underway right now. That's an example of what we can do to free up the economy further, to liberalize the economy further, because the moment we let our entrepreneurs get to work, the quicker we are going to get fantastic results. And, I'm talking about, Indian entrepreneurs going out and building not just unicorns, but super unicorns and mega unicorns, because these are the kind of platform companies that create, hundreds and thousands of jobs. And we've seen that in IT services.
Yeah. Well, we hope that that is indeed the fact, and I think investors will like what you just said, that the government intends to stay the course. But if I may extend that argument that you just made, that you continue to have the risk appetite to take forward major structural reforms and tough policy decisions, let me ask you two simple questions, specific questions. The FRDI bill, sir, that is something that you have decided to bring to the winter session of Parliament for passage. There's been a significant amount of opposition that's coming from political parties as well as from the citizen of India. The government has tried to allay concerns with respect to it, but Mr. Sinha, would you continue to push forward with the FRDI bill, sir?
But that is the benefit of the democratic process, Shereen, is that when the government comes forward with a policy initiative, with legislation, you get input and feedback from many different sources, and you take that feedback on board, and you then decide what is the best course of action. So I think that is the process that we are contemplating right now.
Okay. Mr. Sinha, always a pleasure, sir. Thanks very much for your time. That's the Minister of State for Civil Aviation, Jayant Sinha, speaking with us on the way forward. The government will stay the course, at least from an investor point of view. The big message there, will stick with the path of fiscal consolidation and will continue the reform process. Sanjay Jha, let me come back to you, because some of the lessons that the Congress party has to learn from this electoral result is the fact that while you may have touched upon the right issues, you haven't been able to capitalize on them enough, and you haven't provided an alternative narrative. You've said what was wrong with what the BJP was doing, but you haven't given us any answers or solutions on what the Congress party will do differently beyond following the old principle of economics of entitlement, which got you into a fiscal deficit hole.
Shereen, I will partly agree with you. Unfortunately, our political discourse and the rhetoric that happens in an election campaign is usually very, very negative. To indulge in a constructive dialogue about alternative solutions is virtually impossible. But if you look at our manifesto, I think it was so well structured with some very logical and, practicable solutions to the problems of the youth, of agrarian stress, etc., etc. But, the key point that one takes away, actually, when I look at the Gujarat numbers in perspective, is the division between the urban Gujarat board and the rural Gujarat board. And I think somewhere down the line, when you look at all the farmers who congregate in Delhi and have protested, I think Yogendra Yadav has been at the forefront of the campaign. It tells you that a lot of the issues that were discussed in Gujarat, and principally there will be jobs, the terrible implementation of GST, which is a reality. We can't make a reductionist argument that because the BJP has won, it means there was no GST problem, or that demonetization didn't have a very disruptive impact on the rural economy. These were realities. But I'll agree with you on one point.
We're just saying that it didn't get them to vote against them.
That's always a challenge.
Yeah.
Well, I do believe that end of day, when I look at the larger Gujarat numbers, I'll just make one point here. If you look at the numbers compared to 2014 Lok Sabha, I think there is a very significant and a loud message here for the Bharatiya Janata Party, and one that will definitely motivate our Congress workers back in Gujarat, which is that, listen, 22 years out of power. But, I'm so proud of people like Shakti Singh Goel, Arjun Modwadia ji, and, people like Bharat Singh Solanki who have hung in there, kept the morale of the workers up. And today they can see that the vote shares is just a... Well, yeah, I know, Shereen, I agree with that. But, end of day, they are still senior leaders who have kept the organization in a reasonably good health. And today the vote shares have shrunk, and the Congress party is almost with a 10-seat difference. There is a lot to be optimistic about going forward.
No, I'm not taking away. I'm not taking away from any of that. I'm just saying that your senior leadership in Gujarat lost the election.
Sure.
But Sanjay, you preempted my question, because 2018 is going to be a big year. You've got other crucial state elections coming up. What is going to be the strategy of the Congress party? Are you going to go the BJP route and make Rahul Gandhi the equivalent of Narendra Modi and parade him across states, or are you actually going to invest in developing a local leadership, in developing local cadre?
No, I can tell you one thing, Shereen, probably you'll agree with me that the kind of talent the Congress party has is simply tremendous. I don't want to sound arrogant and say that we have more expertise and better people than the BJP has. I'll let the public decide that. But I think with leaders like Mr. Sachin Pilot in Rajasthan, probably Mr. Jyotiraditya Scindia in Madhya Pradesh, we have some very, very good talent in Haryana. I think across the country,
is it going to be Sachin Pilot in Rajasthan?
Is
it going to be Sachin Pilot in Rajasthan? Is it going to be Jyotiraditya Scindia? We haven't heard. There's been no decisions coming so far from the Congress party. Are they going to be the face?
I think Mr. Gandhi has already given a very clear hint in the direction that this is going to be a grand, old and young party, which means that we are definitely going to fully utilize all the collective experience and expertise of the senior leaders. But you will see a lot of young people from the Congress party taking charge. I have a feeling 2018 is going to be an exciting year politically. We have to make sure we win Karnataka, and we have to wrest Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh from the BJP. I think the Congress is going to be a very determined outfit.
It's going to be a very determined outfit. The question is sincerity and all of that apart, Shankar Iyer. They're up against an election-winning machine. The BJP has made the art of winning elections. It seems unstoppable.
Well, sometimes the winds change for some of the people. Nobody was willing to give the time of day for the Congress in Gujarat.
I agree.
And now here they are 10 seats behind the BJP. There are three-term incumbency in Madhya Pradesh. If they make the right choice and get the squabbling 12 factions of Madhya Pradesh, maybe there's hope. If they don't mess up with what Sachin Pilot is doing in Rajasthan, maybe there's hope. I don't know if they have a face in Chhattisgarh anymore. But the main thing that they need to do is create a vision for the voter.
Yeah.
You know, he's looking for a vision, a competitive vision.
Yeah.
And what's a marketplace without competition?
Absolutely. What's a marketplace without competition? Final words to you, Ruzan, as we see there the victorious duo, Amit Shah and Narendra Modi.
No, the good point about the BJP, which also helped them to win some the seats, and the margin is around 19 seats, that they, till the last mile, till the last booth, they have page pramukhs. So that strategy is working very well from that each page pramukh takes care of 48 candidates in that array, 48 voters of that area, and then above page pramukh, booth pramukh, and then so on. So with this type of a hierarchy, that is how it is being helping them to garner votes till the till the end voter. They try their best. So this is one good thing, and I'm sure they're using this this method in all the other states, which will help them. So in short, Congress should also use some similar strategy to see to it that it reaches the last mile. Because if you don't reach the last mile, then it's not going to help you to win. And as you see this, I would rather now call this closely contested, because it's a matter of 20 seats. And if those senior leaders, what Mr. Sanjay Jha was talking about,
had actually converted them into victory, it would have changed. I mean, you're absolutely right. Sorry, Shankar, you wanted to make a quick point?
See, the BJP also has a state leadership problem. Just now, the people are long on Narendra Modi, and they have shot BJP in Gujarat. Now, if they don't fix the issues that concern the people, they may cease to be long on Narendra Modi.
All right, Shailesh, I'll give you the final say. You know, so big picture, the key takeaways for you from this.
Yes, I think everyone said that political winds change, but the one constant that we have to keep an eye on is Modi will be on top of the BJP and Rahul Gandhi will be on top of Congress. And so the question comes down to who is more popular than the other. This is a challenge. So as someone just mentioned, right now people are supporting Modi, but that could change. And that's something people need to keep an eye on. Second point is demonetization and GST, as I alluded to earlier. Yes, they are very important reforms. I agree, very critical reforms, but you cannot disagree by saying that they did not cause disruption. They did. So with that in mind, any smart politician will not want to introduce another structural reform at this juncture, because the bigger the reform, the more consequential its impact will be on the economy. What you will instead expect going forward on the economy are minor tweaks to the reform process, some adjustments, some disinvestments, some increases in spending for the rural economy. But at the end of the day, the one thing they cannot lose sight of is inflation. Inflation under this government has been very low. It's been a critical factor for their success. If that goes away, you're going to see some serious problems in 2019.
Yes, they have enjoyed that macro sweet spot, but Shailesh, Sanjay Jha, Zafar Islam, Yogendra Yadav, Rujan and Shankar Iyer, appreciate you joining us here on the CNBC TV18 special broadcast. Don't go anywhere. The action continues.